Pure white energy surges over the blackened glass, filling the cracks and pulling the shards together, forging the dark portal at last. A grim storm forms above the lone mirror, the churning spiral of clouds dripping with an inky rain that never falls. Instead, hundreds of writhing tentacles form overhead, growing drop by drop like icicles to welcome the rising eldritch beast. Two massive flowing claws burst from within the rippling glass, blindly grabbing the edges, the angel finally emerging from its prison. Climbing out onto the desert's barren sands, the demonic creature's pulsating chest heaves, its enormous, slimy wings stretching out as the searching eyes scattered among the sopping feathers all suddenly snap to the knight standing unflinchingly before the beast. In the past, this is where she'd deliver a cocky one-liner of varying quality, but I fear that person is gone. Instead, teeth gritted with a long simmering hatred, the knight mercilessly raises her flaming palm and fires, atomizing the featureless, bubbling mass standing in for the angel's head. But even as the knight's beam is still actively firing, the beast takes advantage of her extremely close-range attack. Wings splitting into thick tentacles, it wraps itself around, engulfing the knight's legs before flinging her over its shoulder for momentum before slamming her into the ground, knocking the air out of her. Sand still scattering from the impact, a dozen slimy, misshapen hands burst from the ground, dragging the warrior under. When one begins creeping up her face, even through the thick metal mask, Helena's body instinctively teleports away, returning to the last point of safety. Though the last point of safety is no longer safe. Arriving where the rooftop used to be, Night appears, lying on open air. Plummeting, she lands on a sharp pile of rubble with a deeply pained gasp. Aching senses overwhelmed, the previously disembodied spirits completely unused to physical pain. But through sheer force of will, she catches her breath and focuses her vision just in time to watch the angel dive-bombing her. Lunging out of the way, Night crashes through a wall that was already half destroyed anyway. Plunging to the street below among the tumbling bricks, she catches herself this time, gently touching down as the angel tears through the remaining 10 stories of the building, crashing into the basement. When the beast emerges from the dust cloud, Night is ready. Already fully charged, she fires a massive beam at the dark beast. But this attack isn't focused on damage, but rather knockback. Hurtling, the screeching angel splatters against the dome of Helena's barrier, entirely shattering it. But the chunks of angel dripping to the street below is more than worth it. But the gurgling puddle of gleaming shadow isn't done yet. A small pair of wings rises from the formless mass, growing by the second as tendrils rise, twisting to reform the beast. Before it's even back to full size, tentacles spread from the creature's puddled feet, grabbing 3 nearby vehicles from underneath. Knight's ready for the first, Blink teleporting out of the way as the sparking taxi slams nose first into the pavement. And before the sports car is even airborne, she's already summoned a long, razor-sharp aura around her hand, slicing through the flying vehicles, sending the two halves tumbling to either side. But she isn't prepared for the truck that immediately follows. Helena's body is tough enough to tank the damage, but not happily. A drop of blood trickles down the knight's chin, dripping to the cracked pavement from underneath her mask. With a yelling grunt of pained effort, she wrestles the truck's crushed cab off of her, pulling herself to a limping stand. But before either of the cosmic monsters can resume their battle, 2 Portal Gang members duck into the scene with an unbelievable amount of bravery. One on the angel and one on the knight, the 2 lowly guards cast the largest portals they can manage, sweeping them over their targets and closing the flaming rings as quickly as possible. The combatants find themselves standing within a deep Gaian bog, somewhere they can fight without the massive collateral of a city. The angel hardly skips a beat, though it does appear to. Winding a stealthy tendril toward the nearest pool of thick, green, luminescent water, the inky shadows infect the entire pond in seconds with a single drop. the water darkening from a neon lime to a sickly greenish black. Blinded by hatred, the knight foolishly refuses to let her stolen body recover for even a second, her next attack coming out rushed and pathetic. Some sort of attempted energy punch the angel easily parries. Knight knocked off balance, the beast blasts her in the side of the head with a jet of infected swamp water. As she stumbles, spluttering, the angel condenses the rest of the small pool into 2 whips. One goes for a direct slam attack, but the warrior summons a hard light shield to vaporize the water on contact. A deafening hissing echoing through the empty swamp, enough to mask the swishing of the second whip, swiping her feet out from under her. She falls, but catches herself by beginning to float. The angel doesn't let this slide, though, the remaining water whip already moving to slam her in the stomach, forcing her to the ground anyway. Growing bored of this endless back and forth, the angel raises its monstrous clawed hand. Focusing, the creature steadies the churning, dripping goop, its claw growing and sharpening. But the knight's grown tired too, in a way. To think she's being beaten, even tricked by such a bestial, simple-minded creature. Through indignant pride and an unending fury, she finds her second wind. Spotting a second pool, Knight rolls just in time to dodge the angel's stabbing pounce. Seamlessly rising into a run from her dodge roll, Knight ducks behind a tree for cover as she summons a ball of energy, the largest she can manage in the very few seconds she has, hurling it into the toxic water. Reaching its enemy, the angel rips the twisted, barren tree from the mud, stealing the knight's cover and raising it like a club. But before it can bring the tree down on her, Knight snaps her fingers. The pool erupts, drenching the beast in electrified water. With a deafening, guttural screech of pain, the angel writhes, its body pulsing with an unnatural glow. The creature of entropy fundamentally rejecting the energy, but unable to erase it fast enough. Finally realizing the angel's weakness, Knight lays into it. Fists crackling, she hits the beast with a left hook, then a right hook. Then, joining her hand, she brings the final blow down on the creature's approximation of a head. But just as she's about to send a blast through its chest, a twig snaps behind the knight. Whipping around, Nadia, Gaia's ancient defender, stands there, face stern, having sensed the massive disturbance. Seeing the ancient mask from the prophecy on the powerful young girl, Nadia already has a pretty good idea of what's going on. But marking the elemental's arrival, the 2 spirits inside Helena finally agree on something. They'd better go somewhere else. Knight because she clocks Nadia as a reasonable threat, and Helena both because she doesn't want to hurt her friend, and the shame of the state she's in. So, before Nadia can even say anything, the possessed Helena grabs the dazed angel by its liquefied neck, teleporting them both back to the Midnight Desert. Standing right back at square one by the dark mirror, each of the angel's many eyes turn to the dark sky beyond the storm, stopping to actually think. The sky isn't the speckled in perfect darkness of space, it's a beautiful, unspoiled nothingness. And if that's what Earth's sky already looks like, then the angel has already won. The blight of reality on entropy's perfect void has almost been erased, making this battle wholly pointless, within its limited understanding, at least. So, the angel simply flees. Breaking itself apart to escape the knight's grasp, it reconstitutes itself behind her and flies off, away into the literal void. Utter confusion quickly morphing into fury, Knight isn't about to let the beast just leave. And this is where I have to step in.
What do you mean, step in?
She questions, aiming her demand at the sky, but not at the angel.
You actually want me to just let it go?
Yes, I do, I say. We both know killing that thing is practically impossible. This was the plan. She audibly scoffs.
You haven't matured a day. It's been billions of years since we last spoke, and you're still narrating? Still making your plans, manipulating people in whatever way you feel is most narratively satisfying, regardless of the cost.
I can time skip, but yes, it technically has been that long. But I do feel it's worth pointing out that this little story I'm writing is the tale of how we, starring you, save reality. So I hope you can forgive my theatrics while I single-handedly pull together the plan to preserve the very concept of existence. And for that plan, I need you. So, you have a choice. You can fly up there after the angel and rage against the dying of the light, or you can drop your personal vendetta and save the light from dying in the first place.
And if I go along with your little plan, what happens to the angel?
It and the rest of the entropy simply get pushed back. I think I found a way to save us, but there will always be more nothing than something. Nothing to do about that.
That's it? No consequences? That beast kept me in a waking nightmare for an eternity. I can't let that go.
I understand. But you must also understand that I can't let you go either. This is a matter of beyond cosmic importance.
Oh yeah? You won't let me? And what are you going to do exactly? Make a really convincing argument?
Come on, you know me better than that. I always have a contingency plan. And I'm sorry to say that I lied before. I don't need you for what comes next. I just need the power you've stolen.
You wouldn't dare.
But I would. Night herself accidentally giving the cue, the Nightmare Queen uncloaks, Ghost and Scarlet flanking her. Scarlet lunges for the Knight, her flowing, reinforced gown tangling itself around the warrior. Normally, no matter how supernaturally tough the dress may be, she would effortlessly rip through it. But on the sidelines, Ghost focuses her attention on empowering Helena's suppressed spirit, allowing her to resist Knight's control, severely limiting her power. And at that same moment, a little earlier than I expected, Nadia bursts onto the scene too. Eyes alight with a deep forest green, a mass of roots erupt from the ground along with her, joining Scarlet's dress in securing the possessed Helena. Limbs trapped, Night gathers all the energy she can into her mask, its every crevice beginning to surge with a bright, crackling purple. Snapping to face Scarlet, she fires the beam. But her desperate attack was much too obvious. A soft, cold, impossibly strong hand grabbing the warrior by the neck, Scarlet forces the Knight's head up, the beam firing harmlessly into the storm. Then, Ghost and the Nightmare Queen perform the finishing move, a combo ability called Soul's Slumber. Feeling her consciousness fade, the Knight struggles pointlessly against her binds, desperately trying to crawl her way back into the sky after the retreating angel. But then, her tensed fingers slowly weaken before going limp as the old metal mask tumbles unceremoniously to the sand. As Helena begins to stir, there's just one last thing to tend to. The eldritch storm slowly churns overhead as the void on Earth's doorstep finally finds the planet weak enough for its lashing, shadowy tongues to finally break through the atmosphere. All of today's victories and losses teeter on the precipice of pointlessness as we enter the final stage of the plan. And I don't even have to prompt them. Helena's been considering this option for a long time, independent of my influence. Nadia stares into the empty horizon, troubled eyebrows furrowed. But Helena, still in her now ripped, battered, swamp water-soaked suit, walks up behind her old friend and places a comforting hand on the elemental's shoulder. "We still do not even know if this will work," Nadia says. "It's our only option, though." Helena shrugs. "It is." Nadia sighs, taking one last look at the sky's abyss. Let us go, then. Gently raising her hand to the sky, a large, light blue beam emerges from Helena's lightly glowing palm. The strand of wild, pure cosmic energy elegantly winds through the air, not drawn to Nadia as expected, but to the dark mirror. Surging into it, the glass ripples as the incomprehensible darkness beyond the portal becomes speckled with pinpricks of starlight before clouds of teal cosmic dust breeze into frame. Encouraged, the forest elemental summons a massive system of roots, the deep brown bark pulsing with Gaia's life force. As they grow, the roots form a massive seed-like dome around the galactic mirror. Then, from within, the massive, reverberating sound of shattering glass, gleaming cosmic shards suddenly growing, embedded into the wood as its lime green energy fades to a flowing, marbled mix of deep purple and vibrant blue. Then, the dome begins to stretch upwards, growing into the sky and breaking through the storm, forming the trunk of a monstrous tree as, slowly, a nebula of rippling leaves steadily multiply on its exponential branches. The enormous roots winding to the core of the planet, Earth, the aftermath of the failed, corrupted sequential verse, and the final, dying bastion of reality becomes a seed. Not just regrowing the universe, but creating a dozen new ones. Then hundreds, then thousands, millions, billions. Each of them a brand new corner of reality with its own rules, population, and stories. And in the cracks between it all, the pure entropic void still flows, forced to coexist with the new reality almost as fast as its own unreality.